Well, let's go out to Lambeau Field because we have Adam Jahns, whose job is to be out there. What did you see on that interception at the end of the game?
So the play itself is different than the one the Bears won the game with in Philadelphia, but the concept is the same. Play action boot, tight end leaks out, heads to the corner. But this time, Caleb Williams was late. This time, Caleb Williams was short on the throw. This time, he saw it, well, not quickly enough. He didn't make up his mind quickly enough. Obviously, he had DeAndre Swift in the flat. He considered scrambling himself. You heard him explain that. And then what we have to figure out is where DJ Moore kind of fits in that equation, because if you watch that long enough, he does spring open, kind of coming underneath the alignment a little bit there, but just missed it. Was late on his throw, was short on his throw, and the Packers capitalized on it.
Jahns, what do you think about the second half adjustments from Ben Johnson and Dennis Allen?
Well, I think the Bears struggled defensively on third down. You're in that locker room, and you're trying to figure out why the Packers had so much success on third down against a Bears defense, which has been pretty good throughout this entire season on third down. But I think you learn why the Packers are actually number one on third down offense. They had the answers for everything Dennis Allen was throwing at the Bears. They had the best play called for the defense, the blitz that they were sending at the Packers in that sense. And that's the vibe I got talking to Jaquan Brisker and hearing Jalen Johnson explain things. They had answers for what the Bears were doing on third down. Yes, maybe there's some plays out there they can make. I think this is a game where they'll look back and they'll see some missed opportunities. But the Packers had answers for the Bears' third down defense. On offense, I think in the second half, Corey, I think the offensive line just played better. They started to assert their will. They had momentum on the ground. You saw Kyle Managa and DeAndre Swift get going. That's where the mojo started. That's where the good vibe started for the Bears offensively. Started up front with that offensive line asserting itself like it did last week in Philadelphia.
Jahns, let's lean a little bit more into the secondary, because we were just talking about Jalen and whether or not he's, how close to 100% he is. And, Brisker, we just played him, and he took, put a lot of it on himself for the Packers being able to have some explosive plays. What are you seeing back there?
Well, I'm seeing a secondary that's including, Nick McLeod coming in for Jalen Johnson for most of the second quarter, and you're wondering what's going on. There was a point in this game, Carter, where I'm like, well, maybe they're just saving Jalen Johnson for the second half. If he's on a snap count, why not use those snaps in the second half when this game is really going to matter in the most important moments? Maybe that's what they're going to do. And then the Bears have a 17-play drive that eats up nearly 9 minutes of clock. So Jalen Johnson, theoretically, should be good to go for most of the second half. And it looked that way. But, yes, it looks like a snap count is still in effect for Jalen Johnson, especially when Nick McLeod is playing most of the first half, although Jalen Johnson did come on for the dime package. I think we have to get more information on the Sean Wright, but he had a smile on his face in the locker room after the game, so that seemed to be a positive sign.
Yeah, he just kind of got kicked in the face. Did you happen to see Kyler after the game?
I did not see him at all. I didn't see him get hurt in the pregame. I know it was hurt. The guys were covered up, so maybe he was out there doing something. Obviously, whatever he did not go right for Kyler Gordon, but this is becoming a lost year for Kyler Gordon. I don't know what else, or how else to put it, but he hasn't played much. As John Fox Adam used to tell us all the time, the best ability is what? Availability, and he's not playing. So it's hard to judge him this season. It's hard to see his value. It's hard to see, all the reasons why the Bears, invested in him for a second contract. But, yeah, just a tough break for a Bears defense that really needs everybody, all hands on deck.
Yeah, definitely tough because, you paid him as the highest paid nickel corner in NFL history. C.J. Gardner-Johnson certainly saving them in a lot of ways with that acquisition. I'm just curious about the vibe in the locker room. Obviously they didn't lose the entire month of November. So, now they're starting to get into pivotal games here to make the playoff push. And just what are the feelings like in the locker room from the players?
I would say that Here, I'll give you this anecdote from the locker room. So Jalen Johnson was asked, what he's feeling, what's he thinking, as the Bears are driving in those final 2 minutes, 4th and 1 from the 14. What's he thinking in those moments? His answer was, I think we're going to score, and I think we're going for 2 after that. And right next to him is Jaquan Brisker nodding his head, listening to what Jalen Johnson is saying. That's the belief that the Bears have. And I think we all thought, at least in the press box, and I know some players felt this way, that if the Bears do score in that situation, if Cole Kmet catches that pass, that the Bears have enough confidence in themselves to go for two and the win in that instance. And I don't think anybody would have debated the call from Ben Johnson, knowing, what this season has transpired to be under him. But I think that story kind of embodies how the Bears feel about themselves. They're confident. They know they're close. They lost a tough one here, but they get another crack at the Packers here in 13 days.
Hit the like button for Adam Jahns and the coverage up in Green Bay. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't. We'll be back here tomorrow. Hogan Jahns is going at, 9 in the morning?
9 a.m. live.
9 a.m. live.
Use the code Jahns to become a diehard, Jahns. $36 for an entire calendar year. You get a free shirt as soon as you sign up. We've got a brand new good, better, best design. But that's the frustrating thing about them not scoring there, because we were all debating it. Would they go for two? And I know we're never going to get that answer from Ben. He's not going to give up state secrets, but that is fascinating to ponder.
He might have given it up in his post game when he just, we either go to overtime or go for two. He mentioned the go for two, which sounded to me like
it was on the table.
Yeah, it certainly was on the table, and I think he probably would have done it. Jahns, I do my amazing Carm grades after these games. What grade should I give the QB?
I think that's kind of a tough one, because I'm trying to figure out his place in the struggles of this passing game. And I know it's his second year. I know he has these highlight reel plays. I know he felt under pressure today, and you saw some of that from Micah Parsons. But there's some plays out there that he's missing. So I would say C+, B-. I think that's fair. If he hits that pass to Cole Kmet, maybe you're talking B+, because I think you saw him respond in the second half again. But at this point, guys, like Caleb said it himself, like, what is going on with these slow starts? The scripted plays, the plays that the Bears practice heading into these games, they just don't look clean. The throws that you think should be automatic, they're not being completed. The completion percentage, again, I think, under 60% again for
54% or something.
54%. Like, guys, it is what it is. Guys are slipping, guys are dropping balls. The protection is bad. I get you can lay out all these reasons why the passing game isn't working, but he hasn't had a completion percentage over 60% since the Ravens game, and that was a loss. So there's a trend also transpiring here. I think he played a good game, but not good enough to win. That's how I would grade him. Like, he was one throw short. And I think that interception, as he described himself, that pass needs to be better. It needs to be delivered sooner, and he needs to lead Cole Kmet a bit, because he sprung open almost immediately. So I think there's a lot to this conversation. I think it's very layered, this conversation. But Caleb himself, Ben himself, would tell you that the passing game needs to be better, and that usually starts with the quarterback.
It definitely does. And I'm certainly not making excuses for Caleb. I'd love for him to be an elite level quarterback. But, yeah, we have to consider the pass rush for the Green Bay Packers as well. Because in the second half, when Caleb Williams had plenty of time to throw, that's when I think we started to see the consistency. But it did seem like the Bears took a minute to adjust to Green Bay's pass rush, because they were wrecking a lot of plays in the first half. Is that how you felt?
Micah Parsons is a star. Yeah, absolutely. And this is a top 10 defense. I think Ben Johnson laid it out pretty well in his post-game press conference, just the season highlights of how good the Packers defense is, specifically here at Lambeau Field, where they're beyond stingy, where they perform at their best. And you saw some of that today. I just don't think you should, move the goalpost too much on this. I really don't. Does Caleb need to be better? Yes. Does Ben's play calls need to be better? Yes. Do the pass catchers need to be better? Yes. Did the Bears miss Rome Odunze? Yes. There's a lot to this. Again, it's very, very layered, but the numbers start to add up, and they are what they are.
Would you have run it on 4th and 1?
Would I run? Should he have run it on 4th and 1?
Yeah.
I thought in the moment when I'm watching that transpire, I thought he was going to run it. Like, there was a hesitation in what he was doing. I thought for sure he was going to dive for that pylon and get that first down. He said later that, like you just heard him, that he thought a defender was behind him and chasing him, which there was. But I'm thinking, guys, we've seen him make these plays before, right? We've seen him outrun defenders. We've seen him beat would-be tacklers to those first down markers, and he had DeAndre Swift out there potentially as a blocker, sealing off number 56. So I thought it was there. To me, Carm, I think the more curious question is where DJ Moore fits in that progression. Like, is he a realistic option, or like does Ben Johnson not see him, as a viable solution to the end of that play call?
I like that answer on Caleb. I'm also wondering, Ben, did you think that Ben was going to call a run on 4th and 1 versus what he did?
Yeah. No, because I think you want to keep that ball in your best playmaker's hands, and that is still Caleb Williams. For all the, I understand in that situation you might want to trust Kyle Monangai to go get that harder in the yard and keep the sticks moving. I would understand if the Bears did that, but at the same time, go down with your best playmaker. That's Caleb Williams in the open field with options in front of him, and Ben Johnson presented that situation to his quarterback.